Once forest covered most of the plains, the valleys and the hills of New Zealand. But early pioneers dreamt of a rolling grassland dotted with cattle and sheep. In a short 100 years, the dream has come true. The New Zealand farmer has changed the land. A mosaic of paddocks all in pasture, interlaced by roads, with a comfortable home for his family. Today, there are 40 million acres of flourishing farmland. Grass is the basic crop, and from it comes more than 80% of the country's exports. New Zealand is blessed with a favourable temperate climate, ideal for the growing of grass. Growth is almost continuous, so animals can be kept outdoors the year round. Surplus grass is cut and stored for supplementary winter feeding during spring and summer when it's lush. This successful production of grass comes not only from the farmer's know-how, but also from the research and experimentation carried out by government departments and the agricultural universities. Over $7 million a year are spent on plant and animal research, and New Zealand scientists have achieved outstanding results in improving the country's grass crop. Their ideas are quickly adopted by the farmers, whose aim is to grow 2 blades of grass where only 1 grew before. What can be achieved by research is seen at agricultural shows. Farmers come not only to admire the prime and carefully bred animals, but also to meet other farmers and discuss recent advances and techniques.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to parade the cows in the order that they were placed by the individual judges.
The forerunner of today's grass growers were the early high country squatters with their expansive hilly holdings, grazing hardy merinos and merino crosses on the native tussock grass, right up to the snow line. On this highland, aerial top dressing is now used to increase production. In this type of country, it takes about 20,000 acres to make a living, requiring about 6 acres to support 1 sheep. The hardy merinos are bred for their heavy, fine wool fleeces. Only twice a year are all the sheep mustered together for shearing and in the autumn when they are brought down from the tops to escape the winter snows. One thing the high country farmer has in common with his lowland counterpart is his dependence on his dogs. Without this carefully bred animal, no New Zealand farmer could operate. It's in the terrain of the hill country farmer that the term grass grower takes on its full meaning. For on these crumpled hills, the last 20 years have seen dramatic changes. Pioneered in New Zealand, aerial top dressing with superphosphate and lime has brought fertility to country too steep for cultivation. The rugged hill country covers the greater part of the North Island, and properties vary in size from 1,000 to 3,000 acres. They graze about 5 or 6 ewes to the acre. The dominant breed is the Romney, at home in the moister climate. These animals produce a strong fleece and high-quality meat. Along with the sheep, small herds of beef cattle are raised to help in pasture management. Though some stock goes from hill country farms to the abattoirs, most of it sold to lowland farmers with their more fertile land for final conditioning. Up until 1882, meat was produced for local consumption only, and the nation's exports were non-perishables, such as wool, tallow and hides. But suddenly in that year, the markets on the other side of the world were open to New Zealand meat. Refrigerated ships were introduced. For 50 years, the main meat export was lamb and mutton. But today, with an increasing world demand for beef, more cattle are being bred. Careful attention to breeding from stud animals has resulted in high-quality herds and flocks. The breeding and rearing of lambs is the sole job of another of the grass growers, the lamb farmer. Each year, over 26 million lambs are bred for meat. The lamb farmer's busiest time is during the early spring, when he must go round his flock several times a day, as shepherds have done for centuries before him. But here, the similarity with the old shepherds ends. The modern lamb farmer is an efficient meat producer, running up to 8 ewes to the acre. On a diet of ryegrass and clover, a development by the pasture researchers, lambs mature quickly and become what is known as prime lambs in about 10 weeks. To most of us, a sheep's a sheep, but there are distinctive breeds. These nuggety Southdowns are often crossed with the Romney to produce ideal lambs. The Romney is by far the most popular breed, adaptable to all but the driest of conditions. On the dry and seemingly barren hill country, the Merino does well and produces a fleece of fine wool. The Corriedale, evolved from the Merino in New Zealand, is now the world's 4th most numerous breed. In all, there are over a couple of dozen other breeds favoured by some farmers, but their numbers are small. Sheep are by far the most important animals in New Zealand, and removing the fleeces from 70 million of them every year is a truly massive job. Shearers are specialists. Each shears about 250 a day, and shearing contractors are a vital part of the industry. Mechanization has come to all aspects of farming, but it's the dairy farmer who has used it so successfully to increase production. The dairy farmer produces only milk. His income is the monthly milk check from the factory, a cooperative owned by the local farmers. Dairy farms are situated on the best land. They average about 100 acres and carry at least 1 cow to the acre. Grassland research has made concentrated grazing on such small units possible. Cows need fresh grass, which is the most nutritious, and the farmer moves his herds to new growth each day by dividing his paddocks with portable electric fences. The best use of his grass is the aim of each of these different types of New Zealand farmers. The high country man, the man on the hill country, the lamb farmer and the dairy farmer. The old image of the farmer as someone who lives out in the country with a few sheep and cows is gone forever. Today's farmer must be able to turn his hand to anything. He's mechanic, chemist, bookkeeper, businessman. Idyllic pastoral scenes perhaps disguise the fact that each farm is a well-run, thriving business involving a large capital outlay and therefore geared to efficient and continuous production. In the long run, the future is dependent on good pasture, the primary concern of all New Zealand's grass growers.